Hey, good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, good evening, wherever you are. It's Jeff, Godless Scummer, back again. Today I have Hissy with me from the channel Hissy's Hideaway. This is a bit of a follow-on from the stream I did several weeks ago as a tribute to the late Alberto D'Urso, who's one of the co-creators of the Asterix books. During that stream, Hissy actually kind of jumped in. We talked a bit, and we've both got our first omnibuses together, and we're going to do a bit of a review of the first story of that. And as so you've got a bit of an interest after being on for my last stream, Hissy. But I think maybe first of all, for people who aren't familiar, do you want to just introduce yourself and and what you do and why I think you might be quite good to talk about this.
Yeah, I hope so. So yeah, I'm Hissy. For those of you who don't know me, I think most of the people in the chat do. I'm a historian by quote unquote trade, or I wish I was. I'm a classicist. That's my area of expertise. I like ancient Rome. I prefer ancient Rome to ancient Greece, but I still like it. So that's my thing. I'm reasonably ready enough that I can pick out Latin phrases, which is very useful for this. And there's a lot of fun jokes in there that we're going to go through, that I've decided we're going to go through without asking Jeff at all. So that should be fun.
Yeah.
And we're just going to have fun. We're going to talk about the history of it, the Latin of it, and I'm sure between us we'll be able to produce something interesting for you.
Okay, so should we start a little bit with before we sort of dive into the book? Should we start just in general terms in the history of that period? It's be around the sort of 50 BC. So it's be around the sort of time of roughly of the Gallic Wars, and the setting for this is Caesar's marched across all of Gaul, and so I'd just be interested to you from your initial takes on the sort of history of this from the way the Asterix books describe it. I mean, obviously they're not going for historical accuracy. We've got to be aware of that, but but I'd just be interested to get your initial take on that from.
Yeah, I mean, this is the back end of the Gallic Wars. The decisive battle was about 2 years before this story claims to start. And it is what it says on the tin. It's a Gallic Wars. It's Julius Caesar's wars in Gaul. It was very politicized, and he wrote his own autobiography based on it. And take it with a pinch of salt, folks. The winners write the histories, all the rest of it. It's a reasonable source, but I wouldn't, pledge my life on it or anything. So it is what it is. A war's a war, isn't it? I'll be honest, I'm not particularly interested in military history as such. But this is based northern France, according to the first page. It thinks it's based in northern France, in an entirely fictionalized area. This is going to be after the capture of Vercingetorix. Try saying that 5 times fast.
Yep.
So that's where we're at now. So what you assume immediately is that these characters are all familiar with what's gone on in the Gallic Wars. Most of the Romans fought in it, and the Gauls definitely know because they're the Paul Sods whose people are on the receiving end of it.
Okay, I'll just ask, just the people watching, can you just about a minute or so, just explain who Vercingetorix actually was, because I think he's obviously quite important to this period of history and in the Gallic Wars, because I believe he is the only person to actually hold a military victory over Caesar at Jugovia. I believe.
Yeah.
And then eventually he fell at Alicia. But I think it might be just worth briefly just mentioning who he is.
Well, Vercingetorix to me, I think the way I explain it, and I do explain it with a very UK centric view of Vercingetorix is to Caesar a little bit as Boudica was. He's the leader of a rebellion. He's very much leader of a tribe who decided off your pop. I'll try and control the language, but
Oh,
off your pop kind of
you
thing.
don't need to on this channel at all.
Fair enough. Okay. So I mean, he was the one who basically brought the Gauls together and said, "Listen, either we take them on together, or we lose anyway." And it was very much a case of kind of unite or bust. I mean, it busted anyway, but at least they tried, and that's the credit for that goes to Vercingetorix, who looked at it and realised no tribe on its own is going to be able to take on the Romans.
Yeah.
So he's, I mean, I think he's one of those. He's you get it in every war story. You get the general who went down honorably. Sort of in the propaganda, he's the general or the opposition who they point to and they say that was our opposition because that makes the win all the sweeter because this person was something special. That's Vercingetorix for the Romans in this period.
Yeah.
And his importance can't be understated. I would say if you're interested in him, because I'm not going to go through the whole thing. There's the Wikipedia page on him looks vaguely, concise. But he was captured. He wasn't killed in battle.
Yeah.
Poor bloke. They kept him prisoner for 6 years before they finally killed him. And I can only imagine how horrific that was for them to have any idea of what was going on.
Well,
so
I think we should just mention, I'll just going to share something on screen. Now, I know you're going to actually, from a historical point of view, you're going to take a little bit of issue because it isn't quite what happened. But this is from this is a panel from the very, very first page of Asterix the Gaul. And it's saying that the Chief Vercingetorix lays his arms at Caesar's feet. Now, obviously, there's a good little joke there that he's dropping all these like swords and shields and whatever, literally on Caesar's feet, and he's like, "Ouch!"
Yes.
But obviously, from a historical point of view, not quite.
No, I would
not
say
quite what happened.
Vercingetorix, in as much as anyone who doesn't actually die on the battlefield can, went down fighting. And I would say anyone who holds it against him that he didn't die on the battlefield and was captured, there's probably a lot of propaganda points in there why the Romans didn't kill him on the battlefield.
Yeah.
And there's a lot going on there. He's not my particular area of expertise. He's kind of a hobby of mine, as such, or something I'm vaguely familiar with. There's a couple of decent fictional books based around his son in Rome, which I will send you the links to Jess so you can put them in the comment section because they're on Amazon Kindle. I know, a dirty word, but what can you do? And I think they're called Getorix, and it's Getorix the Bull and Getorix the and they are actually used in history lessons, so they're reasonably they're as accurate as a fictional story can be. By Judith Geary. So I mean, I read those and quite enjoyed those. So they're a bit of a yarn. They're very, very clearly sort of a kid's own adventure book as opposed to a history story. But the setting and what have you is reasonably accurate-ish.
Okay.
So
Okay, so we kind of set the scene of this time period of what Asterix is set in. This is obviously now where say real history is going to get into comedy and fantasy a bit.
yeah,
And in these books, of course, all of Gaul is occupied. Well, not quite.
yeah,
It's one little village near the coast in what would be modern day Brittany, that is holding out, and we have the map. Yeah, so let me put you full screen a second if I can.
yeah.
So you get a bit of an idea there on the magnifying glass. So we have a little bit of an idea here of what we're looking at, and this little village is holding out, still going more or less going about its normal way of life, despite the best efforts of the Romans. And we every time the Romans attack this village, they just go off with the crap kicked out of them. And the Romans obviously eventually do get stationed around this. After a while, start to learn a little bit better, and they do not want to fight with these particular Gauls.
The Romans learn.
The Romans learn. And what we will come to find out is that one of the reasons they're able to do this is that the village druid Getafix has invented a magic potion which, for at least for a little bit of time, gives the Gauls superhuman strength. So when the Romans attack them, they're suddenly going into a fight against people who are effectively, lack of a better term, like superheroes,
Yeah.
And they're just getting getting caned. But so this is sort of being set on the first page of this, where we meet our hero, this Asterix, a tiny, quite a small little guy. Four Roman legionaries attempt to jump him, and it doesn't go well for them. But I think there were some things that you've little Latin jokes that you picked out of this straight away.
So I mean, first thing you've got to notice is Asterix is about knee high on these Romans, which I just found hilarious as a visual gag. But you've got a great one. These Romans are hiding behind a tree trunk, waiting for him. And it goes, here he comes, we'll get him, ipso facto, sick. And that is hilarious. Anyone who's ever written an essay, anyone who's ever tried to cite something will get most of that. I think it's pretty generic. Ipso facto is basically going, as per, and sick is basically it's what he said, literally what he said. So that just amuses me, because immediately you get this sense of the Romans as not thinking for themselves and following the loudest mouth. Which is I actually want to go back to before that, to the books with the Romans, with the Germans. Lovely font change. Absolutely lovely font change. It looks like the Colditz fonts.
I won't be able to share every panel of this book, but I'll try and find one to give people an idea of what we're talking about. One of the little gags they do with this, when they have like the Germanic tribes or whatever are depicted in this, they kind of change the font.
It looks like sort of old English style font. Like the kind of thing you'd get on a manuscript. But that joke's really good. And while he's looking, I'm going to go through the next joke, because the next joke actually needs explaining if you've never tried to learn Latin. Bottom of the first page, accidents will happen. I had to look at this twice. I thought that was a typo. And then I read the rest of it and realised it wasn't. It was a joke. This joke works on about 4 levels. It's hilarious. So accidents, and anyone who's quick with Google can get me the full-on definition of it right now. But accidents is... I should have looked this up beforehand. What can I do? So it's the part of grammar that deals with the inflection of words.
Yeah.
Now, the inflection of words is, in Latin, declension is part of inflection. And declension tells you, it's your Romans go home joke.
Yeah.
It's that. And then immediately, that's the line for the box. And then immediately one of the Romans with a sore head is declining. He was victorious. What was it he says? I wrote it down because it was so funny. Woe unto those who have been conquered. Woe unto one who has been conquered. So he's literally declining it, as you would. He's there. And then the next ones in the next tree are saying we decline.
Yeah.
So again, this joke is, I've probably ruined it explaining it, but this joke is really good. And once you understand it and you see it, it's
yeah. Well, this is the thing I find so fascinating about these books. I mean, these are essentially children's books, and there's obviously a lot of visual and slapstick kind of humor in there. But yet there's stuff you can read as an adult and pick up on. And some of it, especially like a lot of the Latin jokes, very subtle. Some of it. And this is what I found so fascinating, because I loved these books as a child. But I got more the sort of slapstick kind of humor, and the kind of cartoon violence element was probably what would appeal to me as a kid. And as I get a little bit older, it's actually some of the word, like the puns with words and stuff, and little subtle things that you're not going to pick up on as a kid, which I find really fascinating with these.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. If I hadn't studied classics, I wouldn't have got half of these jokes.
Yeah.
I come from I'm sure you're the same. Come from a very working class background. I didn't get Latin in school.
No.
I had to teach myself Latin. I've got half a dozen books on my bookshelf. I'd be very surprised if anyone around where I live would get half of these jokes without them being explained.
Yeah.
But once you get them, they're even funnier. Like, you can kind of get the gist that there's a joke going on.
Yeah.
But they're even funnier when you fully understand them. Which is nice, because it works on so many levels. It expects a certain level of intelligence from you without excluding you if you don't have the education.
Yeah. Well, I think this is one of the things that what I liked about these books, in a sense, is, okay, I didn't really sit there or start reading Latin or nothing as a result, but certainly it got me interested in this period of history and wanting to read a bit more. And I suppose, this is one of the good things about these books, is that you can read these even as a kid or as a teenager or whatever, and you might be inclined to want to learn what one or two of these things are referencing.
I mean, the amount of history in this, when I get into it, if you've got any interest in Julius Caesar at all, there's some great jokes in this for you. If you're a Catholic, there's some quite good jokes in there as well. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
And so, just the general humor is very...
Yeah. So I'll kind of just give a little brief thing to this story that So this first Roman patrol is got beaten up by Asterix, and but the setting is that the centurion's the centurion is obviously getting very frustrated now. Whilst obviously meanwhile in the village, Asterix is finished beating up the Romans and then finished his boar hunt and come back with his dinner. So this is kind of where we are on this, but I mean, because I'm just trying to skip over some of this a bit, but obviously if there's something like some really good things you want to point out from these sort of panels, because we're only like a couple of pages in, but it's still very much setting the scene at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, still very much setting the scene once you get past page 1. I would sort of be inclined to say the story doesn't really start until sort of page 4.
Yeah,
And for the record, anyone who wants to get these and read it, first read through of this story took me about 40 minutes.
yeah,
Without having to Google any of the Latin or anything to make sure I understood it properly.
yeah,
And then going back and just double checking, although I found it funny anyway from what I did know. So,
yeah,
like, I do love the name of the leader of the Romans in this one, Christmas bonus.
yeah.
It's
That's
quite amusing.
it's about,
There's some great names in this. Christmas bonus and Julius Pompus.
yeah.
Anyone want to find the Pompey joke in that?
I'm assuming this is a reference to Pompey the Great. I don't quite. I might have missed this joke, but
yeah. Well, it could be. There's also, Pompous as a word, but
yeah,
Pompey the Great as well. So there's that going on. And again, all these jokes work on those multiple levels. They're funny to read, but if you know the history, they're funnier again.
yeah,
And I do like that it manages to appeal to that broad joke. Now, where's that joke? I do love just this one. So you're back, Asterix. Anything interesting happen? No. Oh yes, I knocked out 4 Romans. Oh good.
yeah.
Like, comment on the weather.
And this is as well to point out. This is where we're first introduced to Asterix's best friend Obelix, who's walking around with this giant menhir, which is like, if people don't know what a menhir is, it's like a giant sort of stone, like the sort of things they have in stone circles. He's just walking around with like carrying one of these on his back, like yeah. So what? So
But I do like the get a fix creates potions because a fix.
Yeah.
Is quite amusing to me. Let's have a look. What else was there? There's quite a few Latin jokes later on, but
yeah.
I did like the joke that the potion he creates. He says, "What's the recipe?" He says, "The recipe is lost in the mists of time. It's handed down druid to druid by word of mouth. All I can reveal is there's mistletoe and lobster in it. The lobster's optional, but it improves the flavour."
Yeah. Which is great. I think it's great because obviously we are talking about like with like the Druidic traditions, we are talking about like oral history traditions as well there. Which is a little joke about that,
It's kind of a joke of the way oral history tends to go. Things that were asides when originally told, because through oral history, different things, the way importance is given to certain parts of oral history can change the meaning slightly, or can emphasize things that really don't need emphasizing, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So that's quite an amusing joke for the historians in the room. Ring is absolutely right there. Multiple layered jokes is one of the best ways to make sure comedy ages well. It really is, and I think when you've got a 5-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 25-year-old, and I don't know how old Jeff is. That'll be nice. Yeah, a few 5 years older than that. All reading it and enjoying it on all these different levels.
Yeah.
Multiple levels of education, multiple ages, and it really is something you can enjoy. She says, having not watched the TV show in years, so will not comment on that, and is commenting solely on the comic book, because you never know.
Yeah, I've got a mixed thing with some of the TV. Some of the TV movies and that were brilliant. Some of the later ones, not so much, but I
do like the musical chairs gag. I'm just looking at it now.
Yeah.
This ancient Roman game is played with one chair fewer than there are legionaries. When the music stops, all the players sit down, and the legionary without a chair is lost.
Yeah. Yeah. Now to give a little set into this story. Now, the Roman centurion is looking for a volunteer to infiltrate the Gauls. No one wants this job, so they settle this with a game of musical chairs. And poor Caligula Minus is out.
Yeah, Caligula Minus. For those who don't know, the word Caligula literally means little boots. So Caligula Minus,
Yeah.
tiny boots.
Yeah.
But the joke about Caligula is he was actually called that all his life. He hated it. He hated it with a passion. The soldiers called him this as a kid. Then he was called it as an adult. It's kind of like calling an adult Diddums.
Yeah. So this was I mean, this is the thing that was like an affectionate little nickname the legionaries gave to him, wasn't it?
Yeah, when he was like 3 years old.
And it seemed to follow him round. If he hated that nickname his whole life, I'm starting to see why certain things may have happened later the way they did. So.
Oh yes. Caligula's one of those Roman emperors. Don't Google him unless you're feeling like you've got a strong stomach.
Yeah.
He's a nasty piece of work.
Oh,
little bit on the wrong side of sin.
I mean, just so now I'm probably going to butcher the Latin of this, but Caligula's actual real name was Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus Germanicus. I can see why Caligula's a little bit easier to say. Yeah.
Augustus Germanicus. So not bad, it's just the pronunciation a bit.
It's the pronunciation of Latin that I struggle with. So
Latin pronunciation. Just pronounce it in the anglicised way. I'll pronounce most of it in the Latin way just because habit. But yeah. But that's a good one. And then so they send him off. There's a where is it?
I think it's on the next page. Poor Caligula Minus. They dressed him up as a Gaul and like a Gaulish prisoner.
Except they've not dressed him up as a Gaul. They've dressed him up as a girl.
Yeah, pretty much what they've done.
Which is quite funny. They've given him sort of plaits and a dress. Which nice play on visual pun there. Yes, I know my husband's going to want to read these when I'm finished. Don't worry, I'll keep them for you.
But a few of the Gauls do kind of have plaits in their hair. I mean, if the chieftain vital statistics, which is another good little pun. Obviously, and I should just point out that obviously a lot of these puns had to be made by some of the English translators because there obviously were different puns to the original French versions of these. Like for example, in the original French, the druid is called Panoramics as opposed to Getafix. But
I mean, a lot of the forums do say that the English, the puns are better and the humour's better. I do love the Cacophonix, the bard.
Yeah.
Which again, the bard who can't sing, his name's Cacophonix.
Yeah, great. It's great. It's He's also a brilliant character, Mike, because in his own mind, he is like a great artist and it's just that he lives with these uncivilized barbarians who don't appreciate good art. That's Cacophonix. That's what he in his own mind is. But the truth is, he's bloody awful singer.
I mean, honestly, it's like playing opera to a Britney Spears fan. They're not gonna.
It's interesting, this little history comment in there says, Robert, I wonder if everything was true about Caligula, or some things may have been written by people that came after him to make them look better.
I mean, you can say that about any historical figure. Again, take it with a pinch of salt, but he was a nasty piece of work. It's kind of, you've got to compare lots of different evidences, and I think he's probably not as bad as the raving orgies and the murder sprees, but he wasn't a nice fella either. So I think
a similar thing could probably be said of Nero as well.
Definitely.
Nero was definitely was an unpleasant character. There's no two ways about that. And did some pretty, but some of the things that have that he's been charged with throughout history, I think, been a bit unfair. I mean, probably the most famous one being Nero fiddled while Rome burned, or whatever.
No, he didn't. It wasn't even in Rome.
Which is not true at all.
Also, seriously, anyone who wants any historical myth like that debunking, tweet it at me at Danger Hissy, right? And I will add it to the list of videos I'm going to make.
Okay.
And debunk it for you thoroughly. Or if you think that sounds like a myth, but I don't know if it is, tweet it at me, and I'll research it for you. I'm bored. I need research to do. I'm one of those. So we've got that one.
I'm just going to put the link to Hissy's Twitter in the chat. So if you do have any interesting questions, especially about this sort of period of history as well, Hissy's a very good person to ask about this. So I'm glad she's kind of agreed to do these streams with me. So
yeah, I am. I do prefer my Roman Empire. I like my Republic as well. I'm so on the Kingdom. But yeah, anything on the Romans, and if I don't know, I'll find out for you.
Yeah.
Where is it?
So what they've done here, they've taken poor Caligula Minus, chained him up, and they're going to take him out on patrol as kind of looking like a captured Gaul. Try kind of as bait, I suppose, for the Gauls, and of course, who else but our two beloved heroes, Asterix and Obelix, happen to be walking through the forest at the time. But it's a good little joke I like here, when he's poor Caligula Minus, he's worried about his fate here, and he's like, little joke here is my skin's not worth a sestertius. I'll never be able to eat tapioca like my mother made again. And there's obviously the little joke there saying, there is a little explanation saying spaghetti was not imported from China by Marco Polo until much later, which is great.
I love how it doesn't try to be historically accurate and then takes the mickey out of itself for not being historically accurate.
Yeah.
Which is always fun. There's a few like Latin bits here and there. I'm just trying to find them in the right order.
Yeah.
I do like that. I feel like this one was before its time, but given current slang, it's quite amusing to me to see them call themselves tools. To see Obelix call himself a tool. Which is quite hilarious.
It's you got to bear in mind that this book was written in the 1960s, so that's probably didn't have that similar slang term as what it means today. But
let's have a look. I mean, I can't say much for the historical accuracy of any of the Gaulish stuff because it's not an area I've studied much, but a lot of the Gaulish stuff is very visual anyway. I do like the weapons for all the family shop, full automatics.
Oh yeah, yes,
fully automatics.
Fully automatics. The blacksmith. And as I said, that there are so many like puns and so on within this with the names, but of all kind of the characters, like, and they generally tend to, the Gaulish names tend to end in IX. But, you have there's a fishmonger called Unhygienics. I mean, there's just and a lot of the Roman names as well. Like we said, there's Christmas bonus, but obviously Christmas spelled with U ending in US. So to try and make it look Latin. And in one of the other books, which hopefully in here we'll cover at some point, we've got a lot of the Germanic tribes, like the Gothic tribes. All the names end in IC, which is a play on famous goth called Alaric, who obviously lived centuries after this was set. But there's all sort of little plays on names like this, and puns based on that.
Mm.
So we've gotten it there. So what we got to the point is we've got Caligula Minus. He's been rescued, pretending he's a ghoul, and he's starting to see some of the just superhuman feats of strength that the ghouls do. Obelix trotting around with a menhir, just like, you know, great big menhir on his tail like that. Fully automatics is like just, you know, like just banging like his sword, his red hot sword with his hands, and Asterix walking by with a, you know, great big cart with about like 20 great big logs on it. He's like, what on earth is going on here? So
then they essentially they invite him in, they feed him wild boar and give him some of this potion. And then the fun really starts, because I love that the ghouls are line dancing, by the way. This amuses me no end. The ghouls are line dancing. Take your partner, set to the right, set to the left, one line forward, the other line back. Set to your partner, shake him by the hand, pull his moustache.
Oh,
and of course, Caligula Miner's moustache is fake, because Romans were traditionally clean shaven, which is a thing. It is very much
absolutely, and it's going to play in a little later in this particular book as well. By the way, so
yeah, it does play in a little bit later. That's why I said that now. So yeah, and he tries to pass it off as, you know, ladies' fashion, detachable mustache, but they tweak on he's a spy. They, you know, their brains and brawn. Sort of.
Yeah. I mean, really, when you look at a lot of the ghouls or whatever, really, it's, if you really look at a lot of the ghouls, it's Asterix and Hideaway who are probably the they're probably the two smartest members in the village. And I do think with the original book, like, there's more of an emphasis on the friendship between Asterix and Hideaway, and I think more the relation. It's more in the sort of next few books that come along where you sort of realise that the big friendship is Asterix and Obelix, really. You know, those are...
Yeah, I mean, reading this first one with very little memory of the ones that follow, I would have said Hideaway was going to be the second character in it.
Yeah.
He's very much, you know, literally your apothecary.
Yeah.
Your potion master, if you like.
So Caligula, poor Caligula here is rushing now. He escapes because he's had some of this potion, so he's now able to obviously quite easily get away from the ghouls and start running back to his camp, and he's running there at like super fast speed. The poor centurion, the poor sentry, the legionnaire on there, halt, quo vadis, Gaul. You know, and
yeah. Well, I think we'll leave that one as it stands.
Yeah.
That's just a great one. But again, it's this jokes for the adults and for the kids.
Yeah. Because you can go then from that. There's those little jokes like that. And he's heading back to the Roman camp, which is named Compendium, by the way. Which is another, probably another little joke of.
Yeah, this entire stream's just going to be me smirking knowingly in the background.
No, yeah. I'm just throwing what's this? What was it? When I was young in the Netherlands, they used mostly the French names, but I like the English names better. Yeah,
I do like the French version of the bard's name, as Ring said, Malacoustics.
Yeah, that's see that, because that pun works well in English as well. That pun does work well in English.
So he gets back to his camp. He tells them it's a potion, and then they realise they don't actually have any of this potion, except what's in
him.
Caligula Minus's stomach, as they put it, and they're talking about opening him up. But he, quote, won't cooperate.
Yeah.
So,
and of course, we get to a point where he's now. You got the visual of this is poor Caligula Minus. He is like a little, tiny little weedy looking legionary. He's the one who obviously is getting picked on by all his colleagues all the time. Who obviously
he looks like, is it Muttley from the Wacky Racers?
Oh yeah, Dick Dastardly and Muttley. Yeah,
he does. He looks like Dick Dastardly.
Yeah.
It's a very similar look he's got going on, especially with the nose.
So, yeah. So he's for at least for a brief point of time, he's able to like get his revenge on his colleagues who bully him because he's much stronger than he is. Unfortunately, there becomes a little problem, and that's they figure out that this potion doesn't last forever.
Yeah,
so when they found out, yeah.
The druid in English, Robert, is Gedafix.
Yeah. Yeah, Panoramix is the French name of him for him, I believe.
Yeah. So the potion wears off, and there's this great little one in the corner of the page that you blink and you miss it. I must get hold of the recipe for the potion. I can become Emperor Christmas Caesar.
Yes. Well, there's obviously a little bit of a historical inaccuracy with that one, but
yeah, I mean, given the way Julius Caesar went down, it's, you know, if his name was Brutus, I wouldn't be too surprised.
But technically, this obviously they're obviously you know, like I said, we're not going to beat up on them too much for historical accuracy with these books, but obviously this is set during Caesar's lifetime. Julius Caesar was never actually emperor of Rome. And the title Caesar certainly wasn't a title at that time. So
yeah, I mean, Caesar, the title Caesar didn't come along until Augustus a few years later.
Yeah.
In, I want to say 47 BC. Someone Google it and check.
I think Caesar was killed in 44 BC, or 46 or BC. I can't remember.
It was Octavian, wasn't it? Who was? I'm sure it was Octavian.
Octavian was Augustus.
Octavian. I'm sure it was Augustus. Yeah, Augustus was the first Caesar. Yeah.
But Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar was assassinated on 15th of March, 44 BC.
Yeah, I've been to the temple where he was assassinated.
Yeah.
It's a hole in the ground now. Cats live there. It's quite nice. If you go to the cat sanctuary in Rome, it's quite good. No, August 27 BC, not 47 BC.
Yeah. Yeah.
The ruler.
But I mean, in the grand scheme of things, this book's obviously not trying to be too historically accurate, but we just one to point out, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, I think a lot of this, the way the book's written, I'm very happy to take the historical anachronisms or the jokes in that way. I kind of, because it doesn't take itself too seriously, you can forgive it.
Yeah.
So there's that one. And then
I don't know. Yeah. So we get to So I was gonna say we get to a little point here so they realise, okay, the Romans realise we got to get our hands on the Druids, so they capture Gedafix whilst he's out, obviously gathering like ingredients in the forest for his potion. And there's a great little speech bubble. Hold on, where is? I'll let you do it, Hissy. I'll let you. It's the swear words.
Yeah, it's ancient swear. Yeah, I thought so somehow.
There we go. And if you hold on just a little bit more, in the bottom corner there, there's actually a thing you can't see it too well there. It says just a reference. It says ancient Gaulish swear words.
Yeah.
So,
which is amusing.
But I think they'll do a lot of this at a time when they will put all those little sort of angry type of symbols into speech bubbles, so they can imply swearing or foul language without actually saying it. So obviously they can still say it to children, but like offensive language can be implied. It's just not actually. I mean, it's a little trick a lot of comics do, but they do that a lot in these books. I've noticed.
Yeah, they do that. And what I might do is, I'm going to start taking pictures of my favourite blocks and tweeting them, I think. I do like a Tullius octopus. It's the
Yes.
Is one of the soldiers. Again, it's these jokes, isn't it? Vaguely pseudo Latin jokes.
And as a little reward there, he gets to go to Rome and see the circus, which you could take that any which way, but he's quite happy about it. He thinks he's obviously going to see the. So of course, a lot of people in these books go to the circus to be the entertainment. I think is the ones who end up annoying.
I mean, there's so many different ways you can take that. You can take that as the Circus Maximus, which is you want to call it the Grand National of its day.
Circus Maximus is probably most known for its the chariot racing. But
chariot racing.
If I also understand correctly, when Rome was actually persecuting Christians, this is where a lot of the Christians were executed. From what I understand, it wasn't done in the Colosseum so much. From what I understand,
I mean, it was all over the shop, wasn't it? It depends on which sources you look at.
At least what I was told when I was in Rome, anyway. But I don't know how much I want to.
Yeah, I would. I feel like the circus. It's a bit like.
Yeah.
You know, in the old cartoons about dogs, it was you're off to the great the great meadow in the sky to run and play with chase the cats.
Yeah.
Little bit of that going on, I think.
I'll say, Robert. Yeah, it might be difficult to translate curse words. We can. This is the good thing. We can use whatever we need to fill in. We can.
Yeah.
So they've got get effects.
I do have to say, get effects stood up under questioning and torture quite well.
Yeah, although they're using probably the most horrific torture in the world. They have him tied down barefoot with a feather. Probably the most horrific torture known to man.
Tickling his feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to some of the other stuff the Romans got up to, I do think that is a very amusing way of sidestepping the brutality of the Romans in real life. That is brilliantly done. It does amuse me that you've got this great hulking torturer there with a feather. They try and bribe the druid. They try and quote unquote torture him.
So Asterix kind of realizes I haven't seen Getafix for a while, so he goes out to have a look for him. Meets this.
I'm relying on my cunning to find the druid, he says. Then in the next scene, he's literally walking through the woods shouting, "Druid! Druid!"
Yeah.
I do like this one. I do like this square. There's a lot of traffic on the Roman road.
Yeah. Oh, let me just put you up full screen a second.
Let me see if I can.
Yeah, top the. Give me the top one there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of traffic on the Roman road. One cart with 2 ox on it.
Yeah.
The mile markers there as well.
So, and he's
The whole thing with the ox is just hilarious.
yeah,
Be a cart dealer, you can take your ox home.
yeah, yeah. It's great. So he convinces this this guy with the oxen cart though to take him to the Roman camp compendium. Oh,
And the guy is a little bit thick.
yeah.
We can say that. Why am I full screen? Where have you gone?
Oh, hold on. I think because I know why. I know why. Because I highlighted you to show that.
Mm.
You're more pleasing on the eye than me anyway. So
Yeah. I could deny that, but
yeah.
I did my makeup today, so I'll take that compliment.
Yeah.
The name of one of the guards as well. The name of the guards: Gracchus Sextilius and Claudius Quintilius.
Yes. Yeah.
Again, the names of the guards are just hilarious.
Yeah.
So
okay. So what he's doing here is he sneaks Asterix into the camp, which I think he's trying to, which I guess he's figuring out. He's figured out that's what got a rough idea. That's where Getafix is, and you have the centurion with his aides there, Marcus going up. I can't wait. Next page where he's laying down his bed. He's brought his second in command here.
Marcus Giantonicus.
Yeah.
I read that as Giantonicus, as in giant toe, because the guy's actually got quite big feet. And the thing about it is, Roman names, especially sort of names used between friends, they were literally, this whole thing of. Yeah, they were descriptive and they were very rarely complimentary.
Cheers, Jen.
Yeah, exactly, Jen.
Exactly. That's actually why Bigger Stickers is a better joke on that kind of level in a way. It's because it actually might be implying that he's well hung, but
it's actually the opposite if he's been called something like that.
Probably, yeah.
So again, jokes that work on multiple levels.
But he's got his friend in there, and now he's sort of saying, "Look, once we get this recipe for this magic potion, we're going to take over Rome or whatever." And I don't know. Okay, and this might be. I know it's a tiny little thing, but it says like the two of us will form a triumvirate, and I'm like, I can actually form a triumvirate with two. I think that kind of implies 3 people, but.
Yeah, there's an entire history of triumvirates in Rome.
Yeah, I mean, I know which is generally was a 3, because there was I think the most famous one that everyone knows is the one with Julius Caesar, Gnaeus Pompey, and Marcus Crassus, which was the first triumvirate, and it's just effectively was 3 people who more or less ruled Rome, for lack of a better,
I don't think it's an accident that this guy's right-hand man is called Marcus either.
Yeah.
I think it's strongly hinted that he's supposed to be Pompey and Marcus.
Yeah.
Is my theory. And we all know how that triumvirate ended.
Yeah.
So, kind of a little bit of foreshadowing there.
Yeah. I believe there was a second triumvirate, but I forget who the third person was in it, but it was with Octavian, Mark Antony. I forget who the third person was, but I think really Mark Antony and Octavian were the only ones who really mattered in that whole thing anyway. But
yeah, they were the only ones who mattered in the West.
Yeah. So they're there. Say, hey, we're going to take over Rome together, and of course, at the same time, they're thinking behind each other's back. Just you wait, when I'm going to be ruling alone once I no longer need you, kind of thing. So they're kind of scheming. But Asterix, he's snuck into the camp and has found Getafix.
I do have to. There's just one little joke here again
Yeah.
that plays to the history. If you know your Roman history,
Oh yeah.
he
Okay.
says, "What madness to venture right into the jaws of the Roman wolf." Um, anyone who would like to understand the extra layers of that joke, Google Romulus and Remus.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's the
Um,
that's the origin. That
one
that's
of
the
the origin stories.
that's one of the origin myths of Rome. I'd say the Romulus and Remus story.
Yeah, the grandsons of Aeneas,
Mm,
abandoned and suckled by a she wolf,
yeah.
raised by a shepherd, founded Rome. One
Mm.
killed the other, Cain and Abel style. It's all there. It's a great
And then
story.
yeah, obviously Gene Roddenberry, I'm sure, obviously found something he quite liked in this as well because he's got a race called the Romulans, and I think they had a rival race called the Remans as well. But I'm not big. I'm not actually as big of a Star Trek fan as some people in the community, and so. But obviously, Gene Roddenberry found something in that he quite liked in Roman mythology, I think.
I do think it does redeem itself a bit with the Vercingetorix joke a little bit later on. He says,
Yeah,
I lay down my weapon at your feet, Centurion, as our chief Vercingetorix laid his arms at the feet of your master Caesar. Or Kaiser,
yeah,
it would have been pronounced.
yeah.
And then knocks them all clean out.
Well, well, actually, doesn't he? He's
Yeah,
like,
well, they run away, don't
no, they run
really?
away because they think, oh my god, he's full of magic potion, and he's like, well, come on, I surrender. You can't. So what effectively Asterix has done here is like, instead of just escaping straight away with get effects, they've decided they're going to have a bit of fun with the Romans. They could have just escaped or something. Walked out of the camp right now, but they decided they're going to have a little bit of fun.
Okay. This joke, when they finally get Asterix and get to fix it in the same room, and there's a great little block. It's this is Latin grammar. On my omnibus, it's on page 38. Ort Kaiser, ort nihil, which basically means Caesar or bust, is what he's saying. He's basically saying, I will be Caesar, or I will, or I'll go down swimming, basically.
And a couple of panels later, you got a little follow up on this as well with something Asterix says.
So that line is put as, this is Latin grammar, which it is. It's grammatically correct.
Yeah.
And then, I'll be loquacious, all right. I'll loquate like no one's ever loquaced before. This is bad grammar.
This is bad grammar.
Ooh, it's just on so many levels. Especially after the declension joke on the first page.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So the torturer's coming in to administer all of his things again, and then Asterix gives in straight away before he's even been like chained up and done anything, and it's like the poor torturer's like, I haven't even done anything yet, and it's like,
I haven't started yet.
But what they're doing now is they're just having a bit of fun with the Romans, and they know what they know what they want. So Benefix is saying, okay, I'm going to brew the magic potion for you, so you'll have superhuman strength, and of course he's goes out to get all his ingredients and that, but he's saying there's something's missing, and it's like, strawberries, and he's like, it's not even strawberries
at this time of year.
Yeah.
The thing is, this is the classic. If anyone was raised by an electrician or anyone who works in the trades, this is the classic "go buy me some Skyhooks" joke. That's what this is. And he sends them on a right goose chase, chasing these strawberries. They bring them back, they eat them, and say they're not good enough. Go get more.
The way they're doing it, it's like we just need to sample the strawberries. So they're like, not bad. And then by the end of it, it said, In fact, actually, they've eaten them all. In fact, actually, they were excellent strawberries. Could you go get us some more? And he's like, it was, so you can just see at this point, they're just having fun with the Romans now. It's all that they're doing, and the Romans, they haven't quite figured it out yet because being, he's just being blinded by the fact that hey, I'm going to get this superhuman strength and get power. What's this?
Yeah. So
Jen says in the chat, the thing about Asterix, its humour transcends the age of the reader. It's something for people of all ages. Yeah, exactly, Jen. That's just what I was saying earlier. That there's things that I found funny as a kid in this. That I started read these things again when I was a teenager. I found jokes I didn't even realise were there beforehand, and things as an adult, and even things like today, like Hissy's picked up on one or two things that I didn't miss because she knows Latin a lot better than I do. So this is why it is so good, and that if you can the jokes in this can be like from like the ages of 8 to 80. Really, you can get the humour in this.
I have to. There's a nice joke here for the soldiers in the audience or the veterans in the audience. Let me see if I can. You should be able to see this one because it's a corner panel. Do you want to make that big, Jeff?
Okay, set.
I said I need a volunteer, and then I will read out the Latin that follows. Now, first of all, we all know, and everyone tells, there's a standard army joke, isn't there? Never be first, never be last, never volunteer for anything.
Yeah.
But the Latin on this is quite hilarious. So you've got a quid noe, which literally means, so what else is new? Says the first soldier. Or what's new? So it's kind of double playing there. He could be responding to this. We'll call him a sergeant. He's not, but you know what I mean.
I mean, he's the centurion, commander. Isn't he? Yeah, I think he's the centurion of this in charge of this camp.
So these guys are essentially pretending to suddenly make small talk when he needs a volunteer.
Yeah.
But the next one is just there's so many levels to the next one. He says,
"Indeed, Jen, I totally agree."
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does say "sursum corda." Now, "sursum corda" is quite interesting because it means lift up your heart, which just it doesn't make a lot of sense in the context of the story until you realise that it's a line from the Catholic Mass that is said when you're being offered the Eucharistic wine. Which, considering they're being asked to take a magic potion, is a very subtle joke.
Yeah.
It took me a second.
Let's be honest, that was a joke. To be honest, you pointed that one out to me. I was like, I'd never noticed that because I'm obviously having not been raised Catholic or anything. I wouldn't get that.
Yeah,
I think you've got to be familiar with like Catholicism or really probably been raised Catholic to, I think, get that one, I think. But
well, this is the thing, especially in the 60s, France was a very Catholic country, still is for the most part. So, that just amused me no end. And it's not the last Catholic joke in this one either. But that tickled me. I spat my wine out, as it were. And then the next one's just like, so what? So they're all sort of, you can read that in two ways. You can read that as them responding to the centurion or as them talking to each other, trying to pretend they haven't heard him. And it works both ways, which is quite amusing.
Eventually they obviously now they get the old guy with the oxen cart to try the potion. They managed to obviously managed to trick. I know this. I don't know if you want to just before we get to the bit where he like Asterix pretends to be knocked out. I noticed there's some little Latin things. Couple little bit above that. I don't.
Where are we looking?
It's like The panel after it says, "When I asked for a volunteer, I'd like a little more enthusiasm and a little less Latin."
I think that's a bit later on in mine, actually. That's the next page. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got this one I wanted to raise as well. So it says vanitas vanitatum et omnia vanitas. That's a Bible quote.
Yeah.
And it's the same one who was praying earlier. It's a Bible quote. I can't pronounce this word. I've never been able to. Ecclesiastes.
All right. Yeah.
1-2 for anyone who wants to look it up. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. So again, is literally they're just pretending like they can't hear him.
Yeah.
Next guy says de facto, of course, as if he agrees. It is what it is. Komodo Wallace literally is just, how are you?
Yeah.
And the other was like, oh, very well, thank you. So they just literally, the centurion is coming, look busy.
Yeah. It's they've put, they've Asterix has conned them into thinking they've got the they've given him the recipe for this magic potion. Well, it is a magic potion, but not in the way the Romans are kind of hoping for here.
Yeah, not quite in the way. Now, do you remember earlier how I said the Romans are traditionally very clean shaven?
Yes.
Kind of a thing. So this joke works hilariously in that it makes him sprout hair from, we'll say, every orifice.
Yeah.
And he does this only after he's supposedly knocked Asterix out, and the Romans have all gorged themselves on the potion.
Yes. Yes.
Which is a nice little twist. So off he trots, he starts getting hairy, and then
yes, and then
literally
suddenly
a Roman with his head in it, isn't it?
Yeah, the centurion, and he's thinking, right, I'm going to be a Superman here, and then suddenly realizes the only thing he's been able to pick up is quite a small little stone.
There is the joke where it says, "Oh, this will put hair on your chest."
Yeah.
It says the Roman, not realizing what's about to happen to the poor sod.
And then you're getting and then you suddenly you're starting to see the things, but and he's saying, "You should have shaved before coming to see me. A self-respecting legionary should be clean shaven." And maybe a certain self-respecting centurion should practice what he preaches. And it's like, oh.
Yeah, it's like the scene in Harry Potter in the movie where the twins suddenly sprout beards. That's what it looks like.
Yeah. And all of the legionaries are suddenly just growing massive long beards in matter of seconds.
Yeah. Oh, do you know what I've just noticed? The pages are actually numbered. If you look, the last box in the pages are actually numbered according to the original page number.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's page 35 of the original.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. And in fact, when I had the original books, that was how they were sort of the panels were and pages were numbered.
So then you have a few scenes of the Romans desperately tripping over beards and trying to cut their own hair.
Yeah.
Then the dog licks some up. The little doggy licks some up and then runs off looking like a mop.
Well, unfortunately, I mean, when I see that little drawing for a dog, obviously will come into some of the later books. Although that isn't the actual dog, but you will Obelix will gain a very, very faithful little pet dog called Dogmatix, which looks very, very similar to
Dogmatix.
Which looks very similar to that little drawing of that little dog in the later books.
Yeah. Also, you get a page of about 24 hair jokes and puns.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
it'd be like, and it's like, you're making fun of me, Gaul, but I have to talk to you. So talk away. Let's not split any hairs. Those sort of things. So to be being like, will you shut up about hair? It's like,
Yeah.
you know. But so we're kind of getting to this where. So I guess he's now like trying to get him to go out and make the real potion. And obviously they're cutting all the hair off, and then it's regrowing like straight away.
Yeah. And then they talk, well, they demand that Get a Fix creates the antidote to this hair growth potion.
Yeah, indeed. So he goes. He's going back out to the, going back into the forest, gathering all his little ingredients again.
And then come back and make soup.
Yep.
Just soup.
Yeah, pretty much. Although there is a smaller little pot with something else actually being made as well.
Yeah, they actually make it. I would like to, just on the next page, once they've kind of fought their way through the camp, once they get towards it, there's a little block on page 42B. In the omnibus, it's 54. And it's just the Roman centurion pointing his spear and saying, Vade retro.
Yeah.
This is hilarious. This means get back. But it's also, again, another Catholic joke. It's short for get back Satan. So he's calling them devils there, basically.
Yeah.
And it was very much, you know, your Exorcist, where he says, you know, the power of Christ compels you.
Yeah.
Kind of that kind of thing going on with it. So he thinks these empty words are going to protect him from the Gauls, and then it's promptly, you know, smashed to bits in the next two panels.
Yeah. What's happened now is that he secretly managed to get Asterix a little bit of magic potion for Asterix. Asterix is like now just knocking out every Roman in the camp. But they go outside and there's a lot more Romans out there. So we're talking like an entire legion out there. And what it's about to transpire is that Christmas Bonus has got a visitor.
So many Christian jokes in this.
Yes.
So and, he walks back into his tent and there's a cloak flung over his chair. Who's leaving a cloak in my tent? And then a man from the shadows says,
kindly render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's.
And obviously Christmas Bonus yells,
ooh, Julius Caesar is like, so Julius Caesar himself is here now. See what's been going on. Why, you know, what's been going on here? Why haven't you greeted me with a traditional honor guard, all that sort of thing?
Yeah. Why are two Gauls causing you so much trouble?
Yeah.
And they're all imagining that he's going to, you know, send them to the Colosseum if he doesn't hear what he likes to hear.
He's going to have a little date with a lion.
Yeah, because Asterix promptly dobs him in.
Oh yeah,
which is just brilliant. Promptly tells Caesar to his face that Christmas over there wanted a recipe for a magic potion to make himself invincible, so he could get himself the imperial throne of Rome. You know, 20 years before it existed. But even to this point, Caesar's just been told that the guy's trying to bring him down.
Yeah.
And still his priority is go shave.
Yeah.
Which I just find hilarious.
Yeah, and again, in a certain way, does kind of reflect the real Julius Caesar in a way. I believe there's that famous. Now I might be butchering this, or I don't even know if he actually even said this, but there's this famous quote attributed to him that he'd sooner die one death than 1,000 deaths, or whatever. So I don't even know if he actually said all of that. So, you know, but but the point is it's a bit true to his character that he, he wasn't overly bothered even at the sort of time when he'd been supposedly warned that there was like a plot out to kill him. It was like,
so the story goes, isn't it, that on his way to the Senate on the morning he was going to be murdered, an oracle. Now you have to understand, skepticism was not a thing when it came to oracles. It's not like today where if a palm reader told you someone was going to blow you away or something, you just go, what do you know?
Whatever.
These people were the news readers of the day. The weather forecast, if you like. You listen to them, they were right. I mean, as the period went on, people got a bit more skeptical. I know that like the Spartans went to war on the basis of something the oracles were saying. This was, a couple of hundred years before, but very much in the same vein. The oracles were a bit of a relic of a bygone era by this era, but there was enough respect there. He should not have snorted and carried on walking. Because the one thing that is traditional in all stories about the oracle is always right. Listen to the oracle. Try and dodge what the oracle tells you. Listen to the oracle. Of course, the problem with the oracle is they're usually pretty frigging very difficult to interpret, shall we say. And you usually don't realise what the correct interpretation is until after it's useful. So
we've we get this what Julius Caesar's kind of doing is like, go away, shave, and says then you'll be off to Outer Mongolia, which so basically he's going out to the frontiers that's going to be his punishment. He's going to be sending them out to the frontiers to fight some. Now I know obviously Outer Mongolia, as we understand it today.
I take that more of like a Second World War joke, being sent to the Russian front.
Yeah, almost.
It is kind of, that was the orders no one wanted. That's where you went. It's cold, it's desolate, and it's boring, basically. Is what's going on there. So it is a punishment. Nothing going on in that region, so why would you want to send soldiers there?
No, exactly. But I guess that's kind of what it is there. So we've kind of come to the end of the story now, and Julius Caesar said, "Well, as you know, thanks as you've very kindly helped, dobbed old Christmas in. I'll give you your freedom, but this is a temporary thing. Next time, no truce next time we meet, sort of thing." And Asterix is like, "Yeah, I'm counting on it.
Bring it on."
So they bring it on. And they, of course, they come back to the village, and we'll have a big feast. And this is kind of how pretty much all the Asterix books will finish, in a way that it always seems to end up with a big feast, celebratory feast at the end of the story. So there's Asterix the Gaul. So we've kind of gone through that. So this was kind of your first exposure to the Asterix books, wasn't it? Really, I mean, after you popped onto that stream I did in the tribute to Albert Uderzo. You popped onto that, and I think you kind of, your interest was piqued. So after reading that, and there are two more stories in this particular omnibus, which hopefully we might cover. We'll get around to covering those at some point. Your overall impressions, though, of this, is for the humour and from the history.
I mean, I like it. I think it's a great introduction to that period of history without taking itself too seriously. If you take it as it's mainly humour, and you're not too focused on the history of it, it's all right. I can sum up my response to that story in one go. I read that story. I have now the first 4 omnibuses on my bookshelf.
Yeah, there we go.
So that sums it up for me. I enjoyed it. It's a good laugh. It's a giggle. The artwork's actually quite stunning. Like It is
and it
very simple, but the artwork's hilarious, and the
and it
visual puns are
it does
really good.
it does evolve as the books go on as well.
Hmm.
You know, it does seem to evolve as the books go on, just a little bit. You know, it does just you know, you can sort of see in this first book, and when you compare to some of the later ones, that they are still sort of forming these things a little bit. And you know,
Yeah,
it'll get a bit more, the style will get a bit more refined as it goes on. But I mean, like I said, up until just a few years ago, really, Albert Uderzo illustrated all of them. So the artwork hasn't changed that much over the years.
mm.
Um,
I mean, there's 37 volumes of it in total.
mm,
37,
yeah,
38.
yeah,
Um, I think they've stopped it now, but it was still going until very recently. I think the most
yeah,
recent volume was released in November last year.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
obviously, I've heard. I mean, I do think, and this is maybe a little bit fair, when Rene Goscinny passed away, and Albert took over writing Annie's. I do think some of the stories were good. Some of the stories were good, but they were not as good as what they did as a partnership together.
yeah,
I think
I
that
think
that lightning in the bottle was sort of lost a bit. I think.
it is, isn't it? It's like, Jetafix put them together, Getafix put them together, but
Yeah,
the magic potion is the two of them together.
yeah.
But that doesn't mean to say the other ones aren't worth reading. It's just you have to have an
Oh yeah,
understanding that it's a different approach.
yeah,
Um, and again, the translations. I've read a load of rave reviews about the translations to English.
mm,
So if you've never read it in English, I think Robert said he'd read it in French.
yeah,
Ring said he'd read it a little bit in French as well. Definitely worth reading in English.
yeah.
At the minute, it's really hard to get the Omnibus 2 because there's a special edition being released at the end of next month,
Okay.
which is currently, you can pre-order it in various places. But you can get the Omnibus 2. It's just a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah. And
At the
the
moment.
usual sort of sources were, well, Amazon. Should we just say it's rather extortionately priced on there, or at least it was the last time I looked.
The only place I can hand on heart recommend if you want cheap books is Abe Books, either .com or .co.uk.
Yeah.
I'm not being paid by them. That's my honest recommendation. I buy most of my textbooks from there.
Mm.
And yes, Robert X, we will be making a part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however long Jeff wants to go
And
on for before it gets bored of me.
well, we got through that, but so I'm just saying. One ring just said some of the translations in America have the French names. Yeah.
Yeah.
But well, so we got through that first book. But before we do sum up, I want you to plug yourself because I believe this isn't going to be the only stream you're on today.
I'm on streams all day long.
You're on stream all day long today.
I'm finishing this and then I'm popping over to One Ring's channel for Media Musings, where he's talking about the concept of canon. And then I've got a few hours break in which I'll probably need to take a nap because at 11 o'clock tonight UK time, I'm with Ilya Moon and the Uncalled 4.
Yeah.
So that's going to be fun. That looks like it's going to be fun. So busy day for me, but well worth it. I'm going to enjoy it all, I think. My husband saved himself a little bit yesterday. He saved himself. I didn't know what the topic of museums was until yesterday. And I got mildly irritated that he didn't invite his fan fiction writing wife on when discussing a, canon as a concept. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But Smooth Husband was very smooth and said, I have an open invitation. So that was very sweet.
That's yeah. So what time's that stream start?
Probably in about half an hour, knowing Ring. I don't know.
Okay.
Ring, you're in the comments.
You're in the chat, my friends. So
I think it was due to start now, to be fair.
So we'll end this up, and we'll send people over to One Ring's channel. Also I've put the link to your channel in the description. Hissy's Hideaway. Still just a couple of videos on it at the moment, but you are hoping to do some more. If that's at some point, I believe.
I am. Yeah, I've got a bunch planned. It's just fitting the timing.
Yeah.
I've also got a playlist on my own channel of everywhere you see me,
Mm.
elsewhere on the internet.
Yeah.
So that should be fun.
Yeah.
And yes, Ringer's already gone live. So
Okay.
whenever
So
we're ready, everyone hop on over there.
okay. So we better bring this. We better bring this to a close. Everyone, jump over to One Rings channel. So I'll just say if you haven't subbed to Hissy already, the link to her channels in the description of this. I, yeah, Chris, we're about to close it down, mate. He's just come into the chat, but so if we want to head over to One Rings channel. And the other thing I said, hopefully at some point we'll arrange this. We'll arrange to do this again, and we'll go through Asterix and the Golden Sickle.
Definitely.
Hopefully. Okay. So thanks again for Hissy for joining me for this stream. I've been Jeff, Godless Scummer. Shall see you guys later. All right. Take care. Salute.
Take care. Be good,
Right.
and if you can't be good, be careful.
Yep. Right.